All right, this is super exciting. Welcome to Inside the 90. This is the podcast where we dig into the 90-day world of EOS. And if you've been a listener, you'll see there's a different setting here. And this is the result of Andrew Geisel and I spending 8 hours in the car driving up to EOS Worldwide in D.C. in April. And 8 hours up, 8 hours back, we dug into so many things. And we just realized this is what the podcast needed to be. So we're going to take topics, dig into individual topics, and just let everybody know what it's like to live in a 90-day world. So, Andrew, super excited to have you here today.
I love it, man. Let's do this thing.
Let's do this. So we were like, what's the first question? And the question that I get a lot and you get a lot is, when should I do EOS?
Yes. And like, what is it and when should I do it? And kind of all of that kind of combined into one. So just, I think, is a little bit of a foundation is EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system, right? It's a business operating system, helps us manage the human energy in our business.
Yeah, and I think that the word entrepreneurial is very unfortunate because entrepreneurs can't spell entrepreneurial.
Very true.
But it does
not even spell it, but try to say it.
Yes. But so we just go with EOS. But really, it the label is to identify a certain type of company, right?
Yes.
So who is it that's going to be drawn to the entrepreneurial operating system?
Yeah. So first of all, think about, there's really two things I think of. One is the company's maturity, but then the second thing is like more of a mental maturity and ready for this type of a system. So you kind of break it down. Like first we talk about the actual organizational maturities, the size. You know, we like to say that it's for companies between 10 and 250 employees. And that's gives us a little bit of a size. They already have a market fit. Like they already are selling something into the market that has value. They're confident in what they're selling into the market. But then at some point, there's some type of like hitting a ceiling. They've had success, but they're frustrated. Things aren't working like it used to. We're working way too hard for the outcomes that we're getting.
Yeah.
And there's like a little bit of frustration. So that is like what we would call the target market. Now, my journey and your journey are very different than target market, right? We both started EOS when day one in an organization of starting a business. And so there's a little bit that we can break down there for sure.
Yeah, and you say the word human energy. I was actually thinking about this morning that like I'm highly energetic, I think, by most people's standards, you know, and I've got one friend who says when the phone rings, he's like, what level hurricane is this with Jami? Like if it's a level 7, it's like, he needs something now, let's go. Mm-hmm. But energy is good.
Yes.
Right. So energy in the form of a river where the water is flowing is good. Right.
Yes.
Energy, Tasmanian devil. Right. Still energy, not necessarily the same thing. So talk about when you talk about the power of human energy, how does that come into play?
Yeah. I mean, just think about, we have an organization, whether it's 5 people or there's 150 people. Everybody comes in and gives us a certain amount of energy. That's focus, that's actions, behaviors, things that they're doing. But oftentimes when you look, as we grow, complexity is going to win. So the issue is when we have a lot of unused and unproductive energy. And so we're pointing in all different areas. I think of it as like arrows pointing in all different ways, right? Which we're just kind of bouncing around. But generally, they're pointing in the same direction that'll move us a little bit. But how do we get all those arrows pointing in the same direction? The picture of like a rowing machine or a rowing team, making sure that the oars hit the water at the same time, moving in the same direction compared to this sporadic feeling. So that's what I think of when I think about like how do we get the energy moving in one direction together.
And that I've heard you present, the process to people a few times, and when you draw the arrows out, it's really that makes a lot of sense. It's like everyone's got an arrow going in a direction; it's just not going the same direction, right?
100%.
And then you take that and you talk about the frustration that gets built. So what's when someone's thinking about EOS, what's usually the driver there?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a little bit of my story too, and what I've seen with clients is that like the number one thing that I see, or there's probably two. Number one, though, is just with my experience, is like we have a team and a company full of the most amazing humans ever. And they're smart at what they do. They're top notch. They're the right people. But holy cow, we're working way too hard for the outcomes that we're getting? Why is this so difficult to just move the needle the way we should? We're all sprinting, but we're just not necessarily getting where we want to go. It should be easier, is how it feels. So I think that's one frustration that you see at like highly productive teams. Another frustration you see is just this feeling of like it's all maybe on one person's shoulder. So if it maybe a little bit smaller organization, the founder or the person in charge is going to feel like if I don't do it, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
Or I can't go on vacation because no one's going to, like, I'm the linchpin in all these things. And even if I'm on vacation, I'm on the phone half the time, and just it stresses me out to go on vacation. And that's because the energy is there, but we're not moving it all in the same direction.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking to me on that. That took me actually this idea of as an entrepreneur and visionary is my natural state. I was introduced to EOS when I was actually hired to be an integrator because I understood the business.
Right.
So I got to work with a visionary. That was fun. I'm much more visionary myself. But one of the things I learned in working with Adam is, and he came from strategic coach and had been in EOS for about 3 months, was that you don't want an organization where it's dependent upon someone, right? So It's a lot of times it's like, as the founder, I feel I'm so important, right? I'm the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling that like this company can't exist without me, then that's your ceiling. The 100%. Ceiling is the company can't grow without you, right? So in the idea of hitting that ceiling, I think for me it really was understanding, getting intellectually curious. Like, all right, I can let go of the fact that the world revolves around me.
Right.
I can take a day off.
Yep.
I can let my team do stuff. And that process of realizing the gains when you can actually start to get some accountability and hand things off to people and they understand why and what the objectives are.
Well, and also let's talk about what happens in reality. When we have done that, we've let go and we've taken a day off, or we've allowed somebody to take something that we're not fully comfortable with, it's probably bitten us once or twice.
Yeah.
And so then you just hold on tighter.
You got to hear
right?
it. Yeah.
And you're like, I've tried this and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so, but usually that's because you don't have the system around you to support what that is. And it's really not about delegating. It's really about elevating a team around you. Bringing them into elevating them to be leaders alongside you, elevating them to own aspects and have better understandings, better perspectives, and be part of the process.
So with that, when someone says, when should I start EOS? Like, what's the beginning of that journey? Look, if I am that company, if I'm listening right now and it's like, we're spinning our wheels. The energy is there. The talent is there. We're just not literally getting the traction that we want. Like,
first of all, you're ready for EOS.
Yeah.
Right? Is what I would say. Product market fit. Right? I'm selling the right thing. Maybe there's some opportunities or tweaks here, but you're generally selling the right thing.
Yeah.
And you're feeling that way. I really would say it doesn't matter if you're a company of 2 or you're a company of 400. You look at these principles. The principles that have been around for hundreds of years, right? And EOS is a great package of those principles. And so the first thing I would tell you to do is pick up the book Traction by Gino Wickman, or Get a Grip by Gino Wickman. Traction's written more like a textbook. Earmark it, mark it up, and Get a Grip is a business fable, a little bit easier. Listen if you like Audible. But that's really the first place that I'd recommend anybody start to really understand the difference it can make for you.
Yeah, my introduction to EOS was I had left a company where I was leading sales and marketing, wanted to do my own thing, met with my friend Adam as a networking, like week 1, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And he heard me out and he goes, don't do that. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, I'm doing this thing called EOS, and he gave me Get a Grip. And I didn't, I'm a creative. I'm not a textbook guy, but the narrative of the story and being an entrepreneur, like when I read Get a Grip, and it was the story of, I don't have all my facts straight anymore, but it was, let's say, 80 to 100 employees. They're a software company. That's the space I'd come in, professional services side. And I read it, and I was like, I have lived in this.
Yes.
And if we would have had this, like, it would have changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the Traction is it's a super important book, right? But depending on if you're more like you want the facts or you want the story, facts or the fable, I guess.
Exactly.
Either one or both ultimately in the first month of being interested in EOS.
Yeah, and you'll end up reading them both.
Yeah.
Just choose which one you'd like to start at, for sure. But I think there's something interesting in there, like when we talk about the size, right? Like, are you ready? I really think that's it, right? That's where I would go. You and I both have started businesses day one bringing in EOS, where I started BearX with there's me and 2 partners, and we started from day one. Our first day was a 2-day annual.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
We went and locked ourselves up in northern Michigan. Get this. Locked ourselves up in northern Michigan in this small little Airbnb, and we got pretty much snowed in. Like, we had to order pizza, and there was no internet. There was no service. And it was like the most amazing 2 days to start a company.
Oh, that's awesome.
We just were just like in it, right?
Yeah.
And like day one, we did it. And there's little things you can even do if you're a 1 or 2 person shop. You can do things like, instead of 90-day rhythm, you bring it down to a 45-day rhythm, which is what we did. But the principles are all there.
Yeah.
So I think that is one. Is size is not as important, but the sweet spot is 10 to 250 employees, because it's a human energy system.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the other piece of it, which I know you're passionate about too, is like more the mental side of it, right? Where like there's got to be this curiosity, and there's got to be this thing. So maybe open that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think what I've seen is, there are entrepreneurs that are very driven, and I would say a lot of times feel like external pace is going to slow them down, right? I'm the son of an entrepreneur. My dad. My mom, they both own businesses. We call them small business owners, not entrepreneurs, right? But like, my dad's never let anyone in the room, right? He's had a business that's done really well, but it's just been his thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think that, and it's worked, provided for our family very well. But I think as I've seen the companies that have successfully launched EOS, is the ones that came in with an openness and a curiosity to say, like, all right, we know that what we're doing, it's not that it's not working, and it's not that it has to be perfect, but we know that there's a want and a desire to be better.
Absolutely.
And if I have a want and desire to be better, then I have to be open and curious about what others can do and how I can be led through a process.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really that, and then the question I'll get sometimes is maybe from a manager or a leadership person, and the visionary, right? They're like, my visionary needs this. And I think that's a different podcast. 100%. But it does take the founder or the visionary to be open, to be curious.
1,000%. Like, it's going to be a struggle without having that. And you talk about like this openness and curiosity. I call it willingness to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like vulnerable with yourself, with the people around you. Like, that means coachable. But you hear it. Like, if it's the right time, as far as like the mental maturity of the business and the founder and whoever's in charge, like, you hear it in those conversations. I was with a team yesterday afternoon, and the founder is sitting in there. And he goes, look, I don't know what I don't know anymore. Like, there's things that come up and I don't know, and I know the answers here. We just don't know how to do it effectively. And so it's like that's the mental space that really is primed to say, okay, now there's a really good aspect of it. And that curiosity needs to lead to commitment, though.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's got to bite, and you've got to have a team that says, all right, we're taking the first step, and the first step is we're not jumping in and being like, hey, we'll try this. It's like, we're going to do this. And, EOS, what they're great at is a proven process. It's what we love helping people do. EOS has a great one. So it's like, what the customer experience or the journey is going to look like for yourself. But you've got the visionary has to commit and say, all right, we're going to do this. And then I love your language, because it's part of that EOS ride up and back is where you got me obsessed, right? It's like, I have to be obsessed about the process.
100%.
The visionary has to be obsessed with it. And not to the point that you're obsessed with it more than your own business, but you understand the obsession of that is what actually drives your own business.
Well, the obsession of the system is the obsession of your business.
Correct. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's the obsession harnessed and focused into the major aspects of the business, compared to, how many times have you as a founder or working for somebody gets obsessed about something like, dude, why are you obsessed about that? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And like, how do we like get on the same page of what's actually impactful here? So for somebody as a visionary sitting there to get obsessed about the system's how it's like the important things in the business. So like stay obsessed about that.
Yeah.
And the commitment is like, I've been in the EOS ecosystem running businesses on it and now coaching EOS for over 10 years, right? And like I still learn something new and have new ahas every single day. But it's because the deeper you dive, the more concentrated it gets, and the more it holds on and you get and it takes time though.
Yes.
It's not a system to implement in 90 days in the entire company and we're good and we don't have to touch it. It's self thing. It's like it becomes our work.
Yeah.
And
talk about the commitment. So if someone's curious, like, hey, I'm open to do this, but what do you think the 3 reasons you hear most common where the fear of the commitment, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want to do this, what do you hear?
A few things. One is we've tried something before and it didn't work.
Yeah.
We've done another system or we've tried this, we've done that, which, I mean, my own personal belief, it meant that you probably just stopped before it started working.
You didn't commit.
Right? So you probably didn't commit because there's some great systems out there, right? So that'd be one thing that I would tell them too. That's one thing is like where the but. The second but is like, I feel like I need to clean house first. Like clean house, not in like get rid of people, but clean house, like
get it in order.
Get it in order. I need to make sure like who's where and what and like make sure things are in order. But the beauty of how we implement EOS is it cleans through, not before or after. It's the process, not an event. It's all of that. And then the third but type of thing I feel is the fear of how the team's gonna react. So I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna bring this to the team. I can't lose my team. I don't want to frustrate them. I don't want to feel like I'm dictating them at all. And just surprises me more and more every single time. Team members that are the right people in the right seats are asking you for this.
Yeah.
They are the happiest, like, thank God we have this structure. We have this, right? Like this connection and these different things that like, I know what I'm accountable for. I have clarity. I know where we're going. Now I can impact that.
Yeah.
I can row the boat in the same direction now. Because they're the ones that are giving all the energy, but they don't know where to put it all the time.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 things that, I don't know what the stat is, but when it comes to high-performing team players, the 2 things they want is clarity and accountability.
Yes, right? Clarity and accountability.
Yeah, and it's like what you get with clarity is you get a vision of understanding. It's not just what direction are we rowing, but where is land?
100%.
Right? It's like when we get there, how will we know? And then once you get that clarity, then it's that accountability to know that, all right, I'm rowing because this is the seat that I'm in, and this seat contributes to the direction of this boat in that way or this way, and it is it's magnetic to the right type of people.
100%. And I was thinking about like a sports team. Arguably some of the highest cultures and of teams out there are professional sports teams or college sports teams. They have these really in-depth cultures that everybody feels a part of, and there's like this huge team camaraderie. And yet there's a scoreboard at the end of every single game.
Yep. There's
stats and every position. You can be bumped off a first string and a second and move back and forth. Extremely, extremely accountable, but high culture.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the culture we're trying to
That
build.
is a perfect analogy, actually. I think I've heard you say that, but it hadn't clicked. I'm not a sports guy, but it makes total sense to me.
It just that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
And everybody knows the plays. Everybody knows where we're going, how we're going to get down the field.
Yeah.
Right. And it's building that type of a organization when we do it.
Yeah, I think of those 3 C's that we're talking about, the first one's curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
The second is commitment. And the third, which I, as a creative, by background, growing up in advertising and marketing in a very chaotic type of culture where certain types of people thrive and love, which I'm one of those people. The cadence was the thing for me. Like, it's like once you have curiosity and you commit, cadence. So let's talk about the cadence of EOS. What does that begin to look like as you roll it out?
Yeah. The cadence that you're talking about is this idea of the 90-day world. So hence inside the 90, right? But this idea of the 90-day world where we're getting back together and we are establishing what our priorities and rocks are for the next 90 days as a leadership team, as a whole organization, and we go out and we execute. And over that period of time, we're going to start this fray and we come back together and we just live this 90-day world. But inside of that, there's other smaller cadences, weekly level 10 meetings. The meetings have the exact same agenda and every single time. So like people know what to expect and you get more out of them. So it's this cadence of like consistency and simplicity that brings this idea of calm in the chaos. And it's like this point. It's like I always say, the cadence, people fight against it in the beginning. As soon as it's in place for a little while, then they fight for it. Like if you miss a beat in the cadence, you miss a beat, they're like, whoa, I feel a little frantic.
Yeah.
We need to get back together.
Yeah.
And so that's part of that cadence that we're talking about.
Yeah. So going back to like me starting just by myself, day one on EOS, I had scorecards. And I found that if I got busy and I missed a Monday morning, by like Wednesday, I was frantic, right, on like revenue and sales pipelines because it was just me,
Yes.
And then I'd my rhythm has always been a Sunday night, Monday morning scorecard update for a Monday L10, which I like that cadence. But I'd get in there and do the scorecard, and I'd be like, if I just would have done this, I could have rested for the past 4 days. But I'm driving myself crazy because I didn't know, and now that weekly rhythm of looking at it, it's like, oh, I have visibility into the important things that I need to be worrying about so that I don't get stuck in all the urgent. And
so now think about that. You're talking about as an individual.
Yeah.
Think about it like, when I had a company of 50 people, they all feel that same way.
Yes.
So that's where we're talking about the energy feeling frantic and all over the place because there's not this cadence that brings it together.
Yeah.
That realigns us all the time and gives us that accountability, gives us that feeling. And so it builds exponentially the more people we have. And that's why that cadence is such a crucial aspect of what it is.
So we had funny, I had a conversation with a guy in my office yesterday, and you should say it really quick. He was a creative, and I was like, I'm not going to get into this EOS stuff with you. And then he messaged me this morning on LinkedIn. And he's like, hey, what was that book, man? Like, you got me interested in this. And so as an industry of creatives, right, discipline, structure, this sounds super spooky to me.
Yes.
Like how do you get over that idea of like, this is bureaucracy. These are rules. I don't want that.
100%. So I think there's a few things. There's an analogy that Mark gives, and he talks about this idea that think of EOS as a framework of like, go to a sports analogy and think about a football game, right? Every team has their own ideas, their plays, their players, all these different things, but it's always played in the exact same size field with the exact same rules. And that's in some ways what EOS can do, where it gives us like a little bit of framework, but it allows for a lot of creativity and for you to do the job you want to do and how you want to do it and all of those. Like it doesn't tell you the playbook to play, but it just gives you the rules and it gives you the field size. No,
that's actually another great analogy. Yeah, that it does. And constraints are good, right? And the constraints here is cadence and vision and alignment, but then it's not the how and process and it's not software.
No.
It's not click here.
No.
It's a way of thinking and a discipline and a structure that just gets everybody going in the same
100%.
direction.
And I'll kind of leave us with this too, this thought of like when you're saying like the cadence and these things, like it's not just the getting your arms around it and having that field and some of those things, but it actually gives you like it gives you the where things need to happen. So instead of me as a visionary jumping in and like jumping all over the place, it gives me a place for things.
Yes.
In compartmentalization. Like,
yes.
that type of thought goes here and it's brought to this team. This type of thought goes here and it's brought to this team. And then there's a way to work through it. And so it calms a little bit of the chaos that we create for our teams a lot of times.
Yeah, no, and I think you said the word compartmentalization, which is an EOS concept. I think we got to note that's a really good topic by itself to really dig into. So with all that, we've talked about, when should I start? The next thing I try to tell people is the process is fairly easy. So like if someone's like, hey, I'm curious. Yeah. What do I do? What's the first step?
Absolutely. First thing I would recommend is reading book Traction or Get a Grip. Gives you a nice frame understanding and get your arms around a little bit. But then reach out to a local EOS implementer. You go to eosworldwide.com, and in there's somewhere on the homepage you can find an implementer. Yeah. Just contact them. We always want to help first. So we were happy to take phone calls, sit down, but there's a step in our process called the 90-minute meeting where we sit down with you and your key team members, and we just open the curtain, talk about what the process looks like, answer questions, let you know kind of everything it has. But that's by far the best next step to take.
And it's free.
It's free.
Right? It's structured. So everybody's going to get the same experience. Doesn't matter what implementer you talk to, right? And it helps you and your whole team get clarity on what it's really the narration of the journey.
100%.
This is what this is going to look like.
That's a great way to say it. Absolutely. All right, man. Well, this has been awesome. I appreciate the new format. I think it's going to be great.
Yes.
And jamming out.
Cool. Well, thank you. This is it's been a lot of fun. We got more topics coming.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned.
All right.